Thank you for joining us in another episode of Learning Happy Hour. This time we're talking about what's new in BPA with two special guests, Sam and Andrew.
They're going to tell us about changes in the BPA regarding template stacks and masking of PII data.
And what's this thing CIS?
Good question.
It's that time again. It's Learning Happy Hour with Mitch and Jason. BYOB and bring your own brain. Cheers.
Welcome to this special episode of Learning Happy Hour. Today we're going to focus on the best practice analysis tool, and we've got several members from the BPA team here with us. So on my left is Samshod Sunku. You go by Sam, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. And you're the product manager over the customer experience team, is that correct?
Yes, you're right.
Nice. And also we have
Andrew. So this is Andrew who's joining us via Zoom. So Andrew Mendoza, he is systems engineering manager. Is that correct? Did I say that right?
Software engineering.
Software engineering. Yeah, software engineering. Great. So we're so excited that you guys are here, and we're going to talk about one of our favorite things, and that is the BPA, the Best Practice Assessment Tool. So that's what these guys do. They are the best practice assessment brains. So we're looking forward to learning more about what's new in the BPA and anything else you want to share with the folks that are watching.
I think we want to probably focus just some new features which we recently released in the last couple of weeks, and making sure that people get comforted with it, the way we think and vision that. So probably a quick video would help them, take it ahead from there.
Yeah, great.
Sounds good. Yeah. So you have something you want to show us then?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
So we did not have the template stacks in the prior BPA reports.
So like analyzing how people's stacks were structured, or the contents within them? So
we were parsing the configurations for the templates, but not for the stacks.
Oh, so how stacks relate to each other.
Right. So the way it works is a template stack can have multiple templates in it, but the way we were processing is the config was being processed for each template. So sometimes you may have duplicate processing, and let's say if it's a pass, we give a duplicate pass. If it's a fail, duplicate fail. So we were waiting to get the template stacks in there, and then what we have is we are covering PANOS 8.1 and later for template stacks, because PANOS 8.0 and earlier had a different way of configuring template stacks. So we just wanted to start with 8.1 and make it comfortable, and then if we feel good, all's fine, then move on back to 8.0 and later.
Okay, nice. Yeah, because there's 16 versus 8 in the different versions.
Right.
Nice.
True. And then first thing is let me okay. So it's templates. This is a new left nav item we introduced.
Okay.
As you can see here, we have template stacks, and then each template stack has templates, what templates are within them.
Right.
And it also shows if there are firewalls connected to them.
That's nice.
So in this case, since we have firewalls added to the template stacks, which is the way it is in the config, these are considered as used template stacks.
Okay.
So
you don't care about ones that don't have firewalls associated because they're there but not in use.
Exactly. So our main purpose was we have to differentiate those template stacks which are used and which is not used, so that we don't process for unused template stacks. We save our cycles, we save our users not to even review them because it's not even used.
Makes sense.
Moving on, so this is the new left nav item we introduced, which is templates, where we get to see template stacks and templates on the devices. And then the beauty is, as you can see here, if you go to the network or device tab, and then when I drop down on these, I only see template stacks.
Okay.
In the past, we used to see templates. Now we only see stacks. So we have kind of cut it down.
That's good.
And the processing happens only if it's used template stacks.
That follows the behavior of Panorama 8.1, because you can only add firewalls to stacks versus templates in
Very true.
older versions.
We wanted to get as close as it is.
Perfect.
In our example here, all of the template stacks, they have devices associated with them. But if there was a stack that didn't have any devices associated with them, we would also issue like an informational notice at the bottom saying, you're not using this template stack, so maybe evaluate whether or not you can, clean up your configuration. Maybe you don't actually need it. Okay, so the next new feature that we wanted to talk about was masking of sensitive or PII data. This has been a feature that users have been asking about for a while now, especially if they generate a BPA HTML report and they want to share that report, but they're just security conscious, and they might not want to share the file if they know things like serial numbers and IP addresses are being exposed. And I believe that Nate actually mentioned this the last time he was on the podcast talking to Mitch, that this was something in our pipeline that we're working on. And so we've now rolled out this feature. So right now I have the device info page pulled up. And so we can see here within the system info that we pull from the CLI, from the tech support file, some of the more sensitive data like serial number, IP addresses, and so UUIDs and so forth. We've targeted those specific attributes, and we've masked out part of the data, so that way it's not easily identifiable.
That's great.
But you keep a couple characters there, right? Like the last four of a social, so you could refer to it. Is that why?
Yeah, that's right. So we're masking out. Usually it's just a part, or we don't mask the entire value. So that way there's still some context if there's a call to action based on that value. So if we were to actually look at, from one of the best practice checks, for example, if we went into device administrators, I think might be a good one. We block out part of it, but in case there's a check that's failing, so if there was a particular admin that we wanted them to change something on, they can still kind of tease out which was the correct attributes that they would have to go back and fix within their device.
Yeah, that reminds me actually of when I go to purchase a lift and I have multiple credit cards. They have the last four digits. I can choose which credit card just based on the last four digits. So there's some obscurity there, but at the same time, I can take action on an individual card based on that value.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. So yeah, we're trying to just provide some additional safeguards for the end user in case they want to share this report.
So we thought, whatever we show, whatever is being masked, whatever is being clear text showed, does make sense only for those people who know that particular config. It is not directly fully available like IP address or admin name. So that's the inspiration behind making it in this way. We kind of mask 40%, the initial 40% characters. So only the remaining is seen.
So say an employee leaves company A, goes to company B, and takes the BPA with him. Company B wouldn't really be able to, without knowing that it's from company A, they wouldn't know it's from.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
That's great.
So even if it accidentally lands in some other place, it doesn't make any sense. So moving on to the what was the other one?
The privacy.
Privacy document. We had originally a FAQ on BPA, and basically it was answering how we used to save our customer provided TSF, how we used to process the BPA reports and so on, right?
Sorry, TSF?
Tech support file.
Okay.
You got it.
I didn't even know there was an acronym for
I
that.
didn't either. I just called it dump file.
Tech support file. I like it.
That's good. Thanks for. So we wanted to have an official version of the BPA privacy document, and then we are working with the legal team at this point. We have it drafted and in the final review process. As soon as it is done, we'll be having it available in the, I think, probably TechPub space, I think, where we have the rest of the privacy documents. We're close to completion.
Good.
Yeah, so where the wildfire privacy document is.
Logging surveys,
exactly.
traps, and so on.
Nice. We
wanted to make sure that we do not save any tech support files. We do not save any BPA reports. We only process the data on the fly, and then generate a BPA report for the customer. We don't even have any tech support files or BPA report. We've been asked, this is a natural question which we get from each customer, and we wanted to make sure that is the way it is. So yeah, all the details will be part of the document.
Good. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's right. So just to add on to what Sam was saying, we don't store the entire report. We only save enough high-level aggregate data so we can provide these kind of trends that you see on the screen here, so that you can see over time is your best practice adoption improving, as well as for the heat map perspective. Are you improving from a security policy capability adoption? So we're just saving high level data to show these sort of trends, but not the entire report.
So you can show progression essentially, right?
Yes, that's right. So you can see on top here we have the timestamp for when the different tech support files were generated, and so then you can see over time, are you moving from red to green, or are there dips or anything like that?
Nice. That's useful.
So Andrew, what can you tell us about the API that you guys are working on for the BPA?
Yeah, we'll probably have more to share soon, so that might be a good topic for a future episode. But
okay.
Yeah. But I mean, just at a high level, we're working to have that released soon, because there are some customers who've been asking for that, who have more of a DevOps or technical team that's able to do some to provide some of the infrastructure on their side. So they don't need the full report. Maybe they just want to send over some of the data that we use to generate the BPA, like the running configuration, system info, and license info, and just get the results back in JSON, and then put that into their own platform and then customize it however they want.
That's awesome. Yeah, Nate had mentioned a goal to have the BPA get run every time a commit is initiated. And once that API is available, I could easily write some scripts that look for the log entry commit occurred, take the dump, upload it, get an email back with the results. I think that'd be really awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you can just use the PanOS REST API that's already available to get all the data that you need, send it to the API, and get the results back.
Awesome. Can't wait for that. All right, cool. So what is number 3, passing percent by check-ID?
And do you want to take it, or?
Yeah, sure. I can start for this, and then Sam, if you want to chime in. So if we were to look at the summary for the best practice assessment, we're basically taking all of our checks and aggregating them into these different categories. Depending on or aligning them to mapping them to these different categories. So we have capability, control category, class, CIS, critical security control. And so we're mapping these and showing passing percentages. So basically the number of checks that mapped to that particular category, how many are passing versus how many total, so passing and failed. But people wanted to kind of double click from this summary and look at it more on a check by check basis. Just for an individual check, what does that passing percentage look like? And so what we did to accommodate that was, if you go into the mapping definitions section here, now we have this breakdown. So at the check levels, you can see check IDs here, as well as the check name and what it goes up to, and which of those values it maps to. We can see we broke out the passing percentages there as well at the individual check level. So,
now, Andrew, you mentioned something there. I'd like to get a little clarification for some viewers who aren't familiar with CIS. Can you describe what it is and why we're giving you comparison percentages against it?
Yeah, that's right. So I might let Sam kind of speak to that more, but we also have, for people who do have those questions, like you were saying, and they want to learn more about why we're mapping it, we have these question mark buttons.
Oh,
and if you
cool.
click on it, then we're basically saying, if they want more information, we take them to the CIS portal, where they can see why these things are mapped out. But maybe Sam, if you want to speak to it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. When we had our summary views, the goal was to help the customer teams to have a document like executive summary, so the senior management can look at it, not look at the details, but just the holistic picture. So that's the inspiration when we came up with this. And then when we gave this, as you can see, you bring up a very good point, right? How do we relate those passing percentage in the mapping definitions to the summary view? So if I'm looking at the CS critical security controls for customer A, and then I'm looking at CSC4 here, right? And then it says this best practice checks 1, which relates to this check. And then let's say I go to CSC critical security controls check number 5. What it means is controlled use of admin privileges, and how many of that kind of checks are they in best practice? There are 12 checks. And then the graph on the right, or what do we call this?
I would call them like speedometers.
Gauge.
Yeah,
Okay.
gauge, yeah.
Gauge. Okay. So the 53% over there indicates that out of 12 best practice checks over there, the customer has adopted 53% of those checks in a pass condition. And you see in the parenthesis, there's plus 5 points, which means from the previous one, BPA, they have increased 5% in this aspect. Now, customer comes back to us and says, what are those 12 best practice checks? How do I know? So this is CSC file, right? So all that I have to do is go to the mapping definitions. And then there's a search filter for us. On the top right, we have CSC file. And all that I need to do is apply filters. And I exactly fetch those 12 entries, as you can see, the count. And then I can see those passing percentage values.
So you're gamifying firewall security points. I like that. So I could say, what's your score today, Jason? Your total score.
Right. We did that before.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. So just give them a clear context which ones are doing good, which ones are not, so you can focus in those areas.
Yeah.
So I think that covers passing percentage.
Nice. Live
Moving.
communities next.
Yeah. Cool. So again, coming back. In the past, for any release notes, we had all that in our internal server, where our internal team members or employees could use to see that. But then now that it is available for customers, we wanted to make sure, how do our customers know what's been released in the last 2 weeks, and so on. So we wanted to make sure that the release notes, like a crisp information as to what changed, a one-liner, and then a little more details as to like why was it, kind of some justification on it, and then have them readily available in the live space. That is in the plans.
Nice. You said release notes and then little write-ups on the features. Any kind of tutorial guides or?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe Sam can talk about that a little bit, because he's been doing a lot of work to come up with like little short videos to kind of highlight new features or how you use BPA.
That's right.
Thanks, Andrew. So just in the recent past, we worked with the Global Enablement team in creating just like 10-minute videos or so. It's really crisp and densely loaded with data as to how do you see BPA? What like an overview of a BPA, overview of a heat map, and then like getting into a little more and seeing how do you look into each of these tabs, what are their relevances, and discussing through each of those. And we have also had a small use case video where like how does it benefit you, like in what scenarios you can use it, and so on. So we have already had those videos out there, yet we've created them. We're just deciding where do we host it, and then how do we link it. But that will be also part of the live space, because we want to make sure live space has all the relevant data.
Another thing that I think that'll be really helpful for, because I can imagine, let's say a CIO or CISO goes to our Ignite Security Conference, hears about the BPA, goes back to the office and says, Jim or Jason, I want you to run this BPA. And he tries it, and there's a bunch of red. And then all of a sudden, they freak out, right? It's like, oh no, I don't want to show the boss all this red. So then they want to go, figure out how to fix what's wrong before they run it again.
True.
So those guides will be really useful, because in the panic of the moment,
right,
I want someone to Sherpa me through the process.
Very true, very true. The guides are fundamentally, it's a life cycle as to, how does a customer start using BPA, right? I mean, let's say they came to know about BPA, they run it. Now that they ran it, what are you making use of it? Like, where do you start first? Because there's a lot of data, and then you need to have a plan. Like, you start at so and so place. So we may give them a guidance as to if you're starting, then you should probably focus in these areas first, and then from there on, then see the improvements, have an action plan. Try striking it out, things like that.
You have best practices for the best practices.
Let's put it that way.
I like it.
Before we go, I just want to give a shout out to Sam Huang on my team, who was really instrumental in implementing both the masking feature as well as the template stacks that we demoed today. So really appreciative of his efforts to get those into the latest release.
Well done, Sam.
Great.
Nice.
So one of the things we like to do is at the end of every episode, Mitch and I like to talk about what we've been learning, because this is Learning Happy Hour after all. What have you guys been learning recently?
Nothing new, at least latest. What do I say? Okay, let's put it this out of context. I'm trying to learn how the stock market is so vulnerable.
Oh, really?
When you figure it out, tell me, because I don't understand it at all.
So this is never-ending game. So.
So where do you go to learn? Where have you been going to learn that?
I think I follow a couple places like Yahoo Finance, Google Finance, and stuff, and some apps on my phone where I get live updates and trying to see what data is fluctuating numbers, and then is that data sound enough to fluctuate really up and down, and then I'm trying to get some predictability. So start investing in the right place.
I think people have been trying to get predictability for the last 100 years.
I know,
or so.
I know. So it's my game.
That's right. That's good. That's good. That's good. How about you, Andrew?
This is gonna be a new segment, I think. Stock tips with Sam, right?
Yeah.
No, for me, I've been trying to get up to speed with the Google Cloud platform, just because with our Palo Alto networks now having a partnership, and we're really trying to look at how we can move a lot of our existing applications out of the internal data center and into the cloud, and how we can take advantage of some of those the functionality within the cloud when you're a cloud native application, and just make it easier to scale. So just trying to get up to speed with that kind of stuff.
Right on. I think all of us are.
We're in that boat. That speedboat.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, Jason and I, just to kind of highlight some of the things we like to talk about. We were having a conversation at dinner last night, and I found this interesting article about the Martian atmosphere. I didn't know that the Martian atmosphere is less than 1% of Earth's atmosphere. But we had the Insights lander on Mars, and we just turned on some of the sensors that detected barometric and atmospheric pressure. And the mystery that they kind of were presented with when they were looking at this data, normally they would expect kind of pressure changes with the sun going up and down, and that was definitely there. But then they saw like this little bump whenever the sun would go up and whenever the sun would go down. And they were able to eventually correlate it back to similar behaviors within Earth's atmosphere. Now, Earth's atmosphere is a little bit more complicated because we've got weather systems that are a little bit more chaotic than Mars's, even though they get some really big dust storms. But as the sun sets, there's like a pressure wave that circles the entire planet that the Insights lander could detect. And then as the sun goes up, the same thing happens just the other direction. I thought that was really neat. I never realized that there's something like that on Earth. And so some people, if you have like your sinuses flare up in the morning or the evening, that could definitely be an explanation.
Well, I wonder if that's something that animals can detect.
I wouldn't be surprised. But that's when they wake up, the nocturnal animals. Oh, pressure wave, let's go hunt or something.
Yeah, let's go surfing. Big pressure wave.
Moths surfing the pressure wave. So cool. What are you learning?
Well, I was hoping that Sam and Andrew
and I didn't want you to skate by.
Yeah. What have I been learning? Oh goodness. I learned that I was watching the History Channel yesterday, and I learned that Nero, for the Caesar Nero, he had this amazing palace called the Sun Palace. And it was somewhat mythical for a long period of time until some poor fellow fell through the roof of this thing, and they discovered it. And it's pretty glamorous. It is as exotic and crazy as described. It's
so it's intact.
Well, a large portion of it is intact. What's interesting is it was open and out in the sun with an atrium kind of and they brought in. He brought in artists from all over the world and has these amazing frescoes and stuff like that. And of course, the artistic recreation is much more glamorous than what's left with the peeling paint. But it was that's what I learned most recently was
that wasn't bigger news. I had not heard of this.
Good.
Yeah, I don't know when this happened. I can't. But I wasn't Yeah, I thought that was fascinating.
You know, I got interested in Nero from the Burning ROM. You know, the software we used to
Yes.
use. Like, why is the Colosseum on fire? I didn't get it, and then I had to go research it. It made sense.
Yes.
So cool. Well, hey, thanks so much, you guys, for joining us today. It's a lot of fun, and again, we'd love to have you back again soon.
Thank you for having us. We definitely appreciate the opportunity to show what's new at the BPA.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate this. I think we enjoyed this. Just didn't feel that it was this smooth. So we like doing this.
Awesome. So do we.
Hey folks, if you haven't run your BPA in the last week or so, run the BPA, right? You want to run it often, run it with every commit. Be sure you keep track of the release notes, and they're making changes every few weeks and improving the BPA.
Yep.
And we're so glad you guys were here to share that with the customers.
Very much, and feel free to reach us. And I mean, like you may have inputs, suggestions, any abnormality, it may be a bug. Happy to hear.
What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Reach us at our customer success alias, or I can give a link and then we can have
it.
it.
It's at the bottom of your screen right now.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.